how should reporting work in a well-oiled, highly valuable, value-adding PMO?
So I think the place to start is looking in the mirror and saying, what is the problem we're trying to fix here? What is the imperative with reporting? Is it really presenting a bunch of PowerPoint slides that give you the latest notification or update and status of the project? I don't believe it is. I think that the really important driver for good quality reporting is providing insights at a level that are manageable and digestible to the sponsors and key stakeholders, internal and external, that enable them to be effective leaders of those programs. So a report on its own is worthless. It's got to be in a format, at a level, with the construct that enables that leadership team to take those key decisions and engage with the program in order to be effective and successful in their role. So I think it's less about the report itself. It's more about what's it really trying to achieve. And that's what PMOs need to start to look at, much, much more than they often do at the moment. What are the outcomes it's trying to drive? And how do I structure those insights in a format that enables them to drive those outcomes successfully?
And how do you benchmark reporting?
I think there's various things you can benchmark reporting against, but there is nothing like benchmarking reporting against the feedback from the leadership team. Remembering that probably 6 out of 8, 8 out of 10 of the executive team who are sponsoring projects or programs don't really care about project methodology. They're not really that interested. So, if you can benchmark just at a level of satisfaction that they've got with their reporting. I spend a lot of time speaking to people at that level about reporting and how PMOs and portfolios are run. And it is amazing how often the executive team is actually unhappy with the insights they're getting, but they don't necessarily do anything about it. And that's probably primarily because it's not their biggest priority. They've got other, issues to tackle. And so it's just something that becomes almost a stable diet of reporting that's not really giving them what they want. So I think you can benchmark in that respect. I think you can also benchmark against other organizations in terms of the quality of the reporting. If I was benchmarking, I'd be looking at the format. I'd be looking at the consistency. I'd be looking at the level of detail. There are various different elements you can look at from a reporting perspective that enable you to determine whether you're in a good place, a medium place, or not such a good place. But for me, there's nothing like asking the executive team what they feel.
And give us a flavour of some of the consequences you've come across in your career of poor reporting.
So I think there's a number of consequences with poor reporting, or reporting that just doesn't really work properly or as effectively as it should. Probably one of the biggest ones is actually driven by the culture of the organization, and quite often that's the culture of the leadership of the organization, where people are frightened to expose ambers and reds. They want everything to be green because green is quote unquote good. But of course, green is not good if it's really amber or red. And the consequence of that is that information that is important to be surfaced is actually hidden and buried in the cellar of the program and not visible. And the problem with that is that those problems then that are causing the red or the amber rag status aren't addressed. And if they're not addressed, the program starts to delay. And in fact, normally when a problem is delayed, it gets bigger. So a good example is testing. When testing is often not involved as early in the process, in the life cycle of a program as it should be, and it appears like everything is fine. Then you get to the testing phase, which is relatively late on, and the testing team say, well, we needed this, that, and the other up front in terms of the design. You've suddenly got a huge problem because your solution has been built. It's too late to go back over that. You've got a testing problem, so it's not easy to get it through the gate. And all of a sudden, you've got a program which is going to cost you a whole load more money, is going to delay on the expected delivery times, is therefore going to delay the benefit realization dates, and is also going to cost a heap more because of that delay. That's one of the worst examples I've seen of reporting that doesn't work.
So give us an idea of the benefits then of good, accurate reporting.
I think the benefits of good, accurate reporting are, firstly, it allows the business that, or the portfolio that's being reported on, to be managed and led effectively. And a good portfolio is predictable. I think that a far more compelling driver for a good portfolio is what I call delivery certainty. So someone at some point has written a business case for a program. There's a lot of cost involved, and there are also quite a lot of benefits involved, and hopefully the benefits outweigh the costs, and therefore it gets signed off and it goes into the hopper to be delivered. And I think a program that delays and goes sort of beyond the time that it should go on ends up sort of losing credibility, but not just the program, but also the portfolio that it's sitting within. And I think one of the real opportunities is if you can consistently deliver when you say you're going to deliver, to the cost that you say you're going to deliver at, and you can prove that you've realized some of the key benefits that are in the business case, the credibility of that part of the organization goes up through the roof. And it becomes an awful lot easier, more easy to actually get your next set of programs signed off when you go through investment committee. So I think, the benefits are delivery certainty and credibility for that portfolio and for the portfolio office.
And Rupert, what would you say to a leader who isn't getting the reporting and rich insights they need to make better decisions?
I just wouldn't accept it. I think you've got to turn the mirror on the part of the organization that's producing those reports and say to them, right now you are not solving any of the problems that we have in terms of managing our portfolio because of the quality of the reporting. You need to understand who I am as a leader of the organization, and you need to understand what I need to be effective. And then you need to feed me with the food that is going to enable me to be effective. And generally, those are just 3 or 4 really simple things. And sometimes we massively overcomplicate the process and the outcomes. So I want to know, what is the status of my program? I want to know, what are the things that I need to worry about, if anything. But don't give me everything. Just give me the top 2 or 3, the things I really need to worry about.
And just in terms of the KeyView Perform product, how does that differentiate itself in terms of reporting from other products that are out there?
It does what it says on the tin. There's a lot of products out there that promise an awful lot, and they do have the capability to do those things. Generally, they're perfectly good products. But when you put a relatively complex user interface into a relatively immature project environment, you're always going to have problems. So I think one of the differentiations for me is the simplicity of that front-end user interface for users, for project managers, people running things that aren't trained project managers, etc. The second thing is the quality and the visuals of the output, the adaptability of the outputs as well. So I know that if we're feeding a governance structure for steercos or for portfolio review boards, there is an agenda for those meetings that make them effective. And I think one of the differentiators is how adaptable Perform is to enable our customers to focus on those outputs or outcomes within those meetings. So steerco meetings are driven by decisions. So one of the things we would have in the steerco meeting template is steering group decisions. It's not all about just the report or the latest update. It's about driving those effective agendas. And I think the third thing for me, which is a real differentiator, is that I've seen Perform really help organizations evolve their own maturity. So often they've come to us and said, I don't think we're ready for a tool yet. We don't have a high level of maturity with the people that are running things in the organization. And then when they start using Perform, number one, they see how easy it is. And number two, within 6 months, you've got people who aren't trained project managers who are really building a different level of project management output than they've ever built before, and they're doing it absolutely loving it. So it really actually almost plays an educational role in helping an organization evolve its maturity in delivery, and prioritization and managing that investment across the portfolio.